In these trying times, jobs are relative uncertainties. How many people have lost their secure jobs as an effect of the COVID-19 pandemic? We hear it virtually every day now. A pilot opens up a burger stall, an engineer becomes full-time food delivery guy. At this point in time, I believe every one of us have heard it all. So the reality is, people have mouths to feed and they have bills to pay. That's just the reality. But of course, there are those who are blessed to keep their jobs, and alhamdulillah for that. However, new sets of challenges might catch people off guard. I mean, would who'd have thought, right? Working 5 to 6 days a week from home could prove to be a very tiring routine for so many people. On top of that, there's the overwhelming workloads, that might also be because many people have been retrenched. So those who are around, they are expected to shoulder additional workloads to do more for less. Subhanallah. It's a no-brainer that all of this could push mental stress to new heights. As a result, you might be considering to look for a new job because your current job pushes all your buttons. To make matters worse, so many social media motivators, they advocate people to leave jobs that they find unfulfilling and to follow your dream. Technically, I don't believe it's necessarily frowned upon. But in the middle of a worldwide crisis like this, is this a wise decision to make? So think about that. So brothers and sisters, the Barakah Effect brothers, in this episode we'll be discussing I hate my job. What does it mean to dislike a job? How does it happen? And as the brothers will share later on, how we may perhaps even find joy and fulfillment and passion in our jobs. It's possible. So once again, brothers and sisters, this is the Barakah Effect podcast, the weekly podcast that explores tools and mindsets from the Quran and the Sunnah and apply it in our daily lives. We hope you enjoy the episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh wa barakallahu fikum.
ولو أن أهل القرى آمنوا واتقوا لفتحنا عليهم بركات من السماء والأرض.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yaumiddin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ahlan wa sahlan. How's everyone today?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Good to hear that. So Alhamdulillah, the topic of our discussion for today is I hate my job. So the topic is about finding passion in what we do. So Brother Aziz, you chose this topic. Maybe you can enlighten us some background to why you chose this topic and why it's something that's important to us.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. How are you?
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam.
The reason I chose this topic is because, okay, let me put it this way. It is very possible for us or for you to be skillful at something, right? But you don't feel passionate about it. Do you feel it right? Do you have that feeling sometimes?
Yeah.
Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Ali graduated as an engineer. He have remarkable result because he have this passion about engineering.
Right.
But when he get his job, when he started working, suddenly everything kind of changed. And that, I think this is normal. I think he hates his job. Now he might think that he don't have passion in engineering. And other example, Sarah, also an engineer, but she is very passionate about baking.
Okay.
So follow her passion, follow her dream. She quit her job and opened a bakery shop. But along the way, it turns out that she burned out because she didn't know that it is difficult to manage a bakery shop.
Right,
So
right. So the other
yeah,
aspects of the bakery aspect, the non-passionate things start to
yep.
okay,
Then
okay.
your
Reality
passion,
hits.
yeah, reality
Right,
hits. Then
right,
your passion slowly fades away.
right.
And the question is hating your job because is hating your job is because you don't have passion towards it, or is there any other factor? And
Ah.
is our
Okay.
passion is somewhere out there that we need to search for, or is it natural in us, or is it something we should work for and build? So I think I feel it. I feel this topic is worth to discuss. So guys, do you love your job?
Hmm. That's a
Hmm.
trick question.
Okay, let's discuss first.
Okay,
Maybe
but
can I throw a survey result? Yeah, like this is done by Gallup a few years back. Yeah,
right.
so
Yeah.
they did a result a questionnaire on a 1 billion workforce, multinational, yeah, different age groups and different jobs position. The, The Different the main
Okay.
different
Okay.
nationalities
Okay.
as well. Different nationalities. That's right.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And then the main question they asked is, do you dislike your work? And surprisingly, on an average, 85% of people in this globe working for workforce dislike their work. And this is not even
85%.
85%. That's right. And even
Right.
the most productive of nation is not spared from this survey. Yeah? Like Japanese, they rank 94% of their workforce dislike their work.
94% don't like their jobs.
94%.
Yeah, I saw a
Indeed.
documentary about this, right? There's a term in Japanese, it's death by overwork. Have you heard this?
Okay.
Yeah, there's a documentary. Subhanallah. But wow, that's a very shocking statistic, man. Subhanallah.
Mashallah. Mashallah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Whoever have this, even the slightest feeling of disliking your work or job, I mean, you're not alone. You're in fact, you're on the majority side of the people on the globe, around the globe. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Let's put some context into
Right,
the
right.
statistics that you just said, right? So if you have 10 co-workers in the office, there's a very high chance that 8 out of them are very unhappy about their jobs, isn't it?
That's right.
And that one of those 8 people could be me. Subhanallah.
Mashallah.
And by the way, let's just put some real world context into this. Have you, you brothers, have you felt this feeling of I hate my job ever in your career before?
This is an interesting question. It comes in phases sometimes, and it's not an absolute thing where it is linked directly to your reason of doing the job. Sometimes it's due to external factors, or sometimes it's due to the situation.
Right, sure,
But from
sure.
time to
Sure.
time, yeah, I think everyone would experience that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know for sure. I did go through that phase quite significantly. There was a couple of years where I really felt unfulfilled, unsatisfied, and I really kind of beat myself up for it. I felt like, are you kidding me? People want this job. You shouldn't feel like this, and so that made it worse. so,
Yeah. Right.
and then I felt like this was something that was very very isolating for me. But when you look at the statistics, it shows that actually other people go through that as well. They just don't necessarily express them. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it's necessary that when we approach this topic, it comes from a place that we have gone through this phase.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
feel like this, you shouldn't feel like you're alone or going through this by yourselves. And that's the application of what we want to discuss in this topic. How can we overcome this? And the emphasis here is really about what we can do as workers. There's another aspect of it, which is the leaders themselves, the managers, the employers, how they can create a workplace culture that is more joyful, more exciting. But we won't look into this discussion today. This
Yep.
discussion is really about what I can do, and it's really what's within our control. Because when we speak about tawakkul, trust in Allah, there are two aspects, which is what's in your control and what's outside of your control, which is leaving the rest to Allah. So this discussion is that first aspect, right?
Yeah.
So let's get into it. Why? I mean, we did talk about that, but let's get into some aspects about why we want to discuss this topic about hating my job and finding this passion again.
I guess for a lot of us, at least in this day and age, we place a lot of our image and personal values in our work, and
Right.
that's a big part of our identity. And
True.
we also do spend a lot of time at work. Like, let's say 1/3 of our daily hours are spent on work, and basically it's something that like if you have passion in your work, it definitely assists you as a person to have more ihsan in your work. Like what we discussed last week, ihsan means being excellent at your work, giving it your all. So it's something directly linked to each other in the sense that if you identify you are linked in a good way, you like your job, then you naturally want to do more for your job. But at the same time, as exactly as it's like a big driver for excellence at work. So it's a very important aspect that you should think about, in the sense that it's good for you that you love your job and you're in line with the values of the work. And also it can spill over to your other aspects of your life, because if you are unsatisfied in your work, you might carry over that stress to your personal life, your family life. And if it's not managed well, people around you might not get the best version of yourself, so it links to your whole life in a holistic way, I believe. And it's important to something to pay attention to, that we try to get to the bottom of what can you do, or what can you get from your work in terms of how you like your work or how you hate your work, so it's quite an important issue, I believe.
And I think about job satisfaction, I think that there's always three angles to a job, that you might like for you to choose a job. It's always about how difficult, how easy the work is, because ultimately you want to do something which is not difficult, something that you can handle. Number two is the size of your paycheck, So the size of your paycheck, and these two sometimes they correlate to one another, Like you always have this idea that the bigger the paycheck, the more difficult the work gets, So you might be able to compensate that difficulty with a hefty paycheck. There's usually people only look into these two aspects, but actually there's a third aspect, which is impact of work. So impact of work comes with the driver that keeps you going. When the job gets difficult, or when the paycheck doesn't reach your expectation, then there's always the third factor, which is the impact of work.
Right.
So sometimes a lot of people when they start work, especially fresh graduate, they only look at two things. They only look at how difficult is the job, and how much is the pay, how much pay I'm getting out of it.
Right.
Exactly.
Hey, talking about how easy things are, right? We have this kind of love-hate relationship with how difficult things are. On as our nafs, our desire, we always want things that's convenient, things that's comfortable for us. But we know if things are challenging for us, that's what will challenge us to increase our competency, become better at it. But we hate it, like, this is frustrating. So sometimes we ourselves don't know why we are so unhappy about our jobs.
That's true. Even two of the biggest business leaders you can find in the world right now.
Right.
Jeff Bezos and Tesla, Elon Musk, Tesla.
Okay.
So you'll be surprised. Every now and then, if you look through their interviews, they will always express their dissatisfaction in their job. Every now and then.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
a lot of times.
Really?
They will say they hate this job. I don't like working 2 hours straight 1 week for 20 hours. I mean, they express this every now and then. So these are the two biggest, and these are biggest corporate figures, in currently.
Wow.
Right.
So people look at it into it, like I think HR they try to look at it in different aspects, because one thing that I like to look is the most attractive job for engineers. So when I look at the graph, so usually the top two companies currently are Tesla and SpaceX. They always rank top two highest.
Oh yeah.
For most attractive place to work for an engineer in the States.
Oh okay.
Okay.
What interesting, like SpaceX and Tesla, they're not the highest paid.
Seriously?
Right.
Facebook engineers and Google get paid higher.
Okay.
In fact, in the US median, Tesla is slightly below average. SpaceX is slightly above average. Google and Facebook is on the high end.
Wow.
Right. Okay.
Top two most attractive is Tesla and SpaceX. Third is Google. Okay, Google is third.
Okay.
Facebook is not even in the top 30, but Facebook is pays at 75% higher.
Wow.
I see.
So can I make a side remark about that?
Go ahead.
People are always stereotyping rocket science as something that's impossible. Guess what?
Yes, yes.
That's right.
It doesn't pay to be a rocket
Yeah.
scientist now, I guess.
Like
Exactly.
if it's to determine to show how easy it is, like it's not rocket science, man.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly, right?
But literally,
Oh, by the way, it doesn't really
literally,
pay
they are
that
rocket
much anyway.
scientists.
Yeah. And now we can say, oh, by the way, it doesn't pay that much anyway. You know? Subhanallah.
And then
Maybe
like
used to.
Maybe you used to.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also like job satisfaction. Yeah, like how much do you like or you hate the job? Sometimes also influenced by the type of profession and also the age group. Yeah. Sometimes, for instance, like job profession. Yeah.
Okay, wow.
For instance, yeah, like Amazon. Amazon is also top 10 in job attractiveness.
Mm.
But their work, yeah, like SpaceX and Tesla, almost majority of the workforce are technical engineers or scientists. Yeah. So they
Oh, very technical based.
very technical people. Yeah?
Sure.
They understand the impact of the they understand the impact of the work that to fulfill that job.
So
But
the
Amazon
purpose is there.
Like
Right.
Amazon, it's not. They have a mixture of technical staff, finance people, factory workers, forklift drivers. They have that, yeah?
Operators, yeah.
Operators.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
there is a big disparity in terms of job approval among these two people. So in Amazon, like the technical people really love their job, and the
Okay.
non-technical people, factory, really dislike the job. And if you look in the like videos from Amazon for all their factory stuff, yeah, a lot of criticism. Even they call it modern day slavery, all these things.
Okay.
And there's a
Wow.
big disparity.
I read about it.
You heard that, yeah.
mashallah,
And Amazon
Wow.
always make it, but Amazon still make it in the top 10 because I think the weighted of these technical people outweighs the whole survey.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's funny when you say Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk said that they had the job, right? But if you guys have ever watched the Steve Jobs Stanford commencement address in 2005, I think you can search it in YouTube.
Okay.
Have 35 million views.
Okay.
In that speech, he mentioned that if you want to find a career, follow your passion. Of course, most of people out there would take that advice, right? It's Steve Jobs. Come on, right, guys, right?
Yeah.
And there is an author named Cal Newport. Did you read the book, Faisal?
Yeah, I heard about his.
Book?
Yeah, I've seen his book, but I never read it. Yeah.
He's a professor from at Georgetown University and author of the best-selling book "So Good They Can't Ignore You" and "The Deep Work." Ever heard of
So good they can't
Deep
ignore you.
Work?
Yeah, I heard of it. Yeah. Okay.
And Deep Work. Okay, this guy is very, I think, a productivity geek. I think we should read his book. So he
Okay.
says in this book that is a terrible advice.
Oh,
And he
the
continues
thing
that-
about following
Okay.
passion
Yeah.
is there. Oh, okay.
Following passion is a terrible advice.
Right.
And he
Okay.
continues the idea that finding a career path that intersect with what you're passionate about is the key to fulfilling work. Is misleading and sets up for disappointment. The more you emphasize,
Oh.
the more emphasis you place on finding work you love, the more unhappy you become when you don't love every minute of your work. So he called this the passion trap. I think most of our graduate should be affected by this advice to follow our passion, because not most of people don't have passion that easily support their career, right? For example, I think
That's true. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I think it's hard to find a job that plus the things we care about change over time. Meaning our
yeah,
passion
we grow
change,
up,
right?
right? As human beings, we grow up, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like when I was 20 years old, I was crazy about video games. I was passionate about that, but I'm so sorry. I'm not gonna. I'm not great at it. There's no way I'm gonna get a career in that. I know there's no future in that. So I think that's a very interesting point that you mentioned, because that passion trap. So the idea that we need to find passion, it becomes a bias in our heads. So we tend to feel that, oh, I can't find passion. So it actually makes us even more stressed out.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
And also, I just wanted to add some points about why this topic is significant. It's because people, they do feel this. They do feel that I hate my job. But just like what I used to feel, is that the first response when you think that you're unhappy or you dislike your job is that, oh, you should be thankful, man. At least you have a job.
Yeah.
And especially right now, as we speak, towards the end of the year 2020, A lot of people have lost their jobs, they're being
Mm.
retrenched. And then people are like, just be thankful that you have a job in the first place. So even that idea that I'm not finding this fulfillment or satisfaction, people are gonna say something like, just get in line, man, be thankful. And
Right.
probably there are people who feel like this, and then when they start talking to people, that's the response they get. Especially if you
Mhm.
express this to your parents. By the way, I don't recommend you telling your parents this, because they have a very strong emotional attachment to that. So when they're like, after all I've spent for your education and all these things, you don't like your job. So this thing, like these sentiments, it's very isolating. You feel that, oh, you're alone, nobody understands. So this is why it's important to talk about this. And also, I learned through
Yeah.
my wife, even when it comes to how some sisters, the experience that they go through in raising their children, especially those who are single parents, they feel a lot of pressure into taking care of their children and it's very, very difficult for them, to the point where it can even go to the point they start actually resenting their children. But here's the
Oh,
problem:
right.
they can't tell people about it, because if you start telling people like, oh, this, I just can't get into this, or you start feeling this sense of the stress is quite overpowering on you, people are
Yeah.
gonna say, hey, be thankful, man, you have children. You know how many people
Mm.
out there struggling to find children? And again, this trap comes in again. You're forced into submitting and say, okay, you know what? I'm just keep quiet, just keep it to myself. But that has a very negative impact on your emotional and mental health. And as we know now,
Yep.
that's what's happening since the quarantines are going on because of the
Yes.
pandemic.
Yeah.
The mental health cases have gone up. The divorce rates have gone through the roof, even though you can't go to see the lawyer in the first place, ironically. So I mean, all of these are things that people keep bottled up. So I feel that it's important for us to address this topic so that we can look for solutions on how we can find ways out of this, and how we can, as Aziz highlighted, instead of finding passion. So that's the thing, right? People expect you to find passion as if it's
Yeah.
hiding under somebody's blanket, right? So
Yes,
okay,
exactly.
okay, look under that mattress. Okay, how about that one, right? And I think the emphasis about this discussion is developing that passion. So it's really
Yeah.
about, because there's a quote that I can't remember how exactly it goes, but it's something like this: the happiest people in the world are not those who have everything, but they make the best out of everything they have. I think that's very
Right.
important.
Right.
So it's
Mhm.
really about what we can do in our control to achieve that level of motivation and passion within our jobs. Right. So
Right.
yeah, let's get into it. So let's talk about why. Why do people hate their jobs?
Inshallah.
So what are some causes behind this?
So if I may add to that, just before the why, yeah,
Oh yeah,
like
absolutely, yes.
sometimes when you dislike a work, yeah, it pushes you to the brink. Yeah? It's sometimes worthwhile, and some people they have this luxury of to quit and find a new job. Yeah, some
Yeah.
people they don't. Most people
Yeah.
don't. Yeah,
Yeah.
Right, right.
Yep.
Most people don't.
most people don't. So it can be due to a lot of things. It can be a financial commitment, can be a job market instability, can be a insufficient experience whatsoever. Yeah.
Yep.
So actually, something I like to also approach this is like so for those who can't change. So what can we do to help you change that mindset, to help you create that spark, that enthusiasm, like why it brings you to that job in the first place, and then how to rediscover that again? Yeah,
Ooh, love it, love
Mm.
it.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Right.
that's
awesome.
one, one way to approach this as well. Like because something like, and this thing, first thing for you to the journey, the first step to this journey, yeah,
Yep.
is you need to be able to identify what is the cause of dissatisfaction in the first place. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
need to understand what is it? Is it your boss? Is it your colleague? Overwork, no progress, low pay, work-life balance, whatever. And then once you got that, yeah, you
Fantastic.
need to
Mm.
quantify where it hurts the most.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it hurting your relationship with Allah? Is
How
it
is it
hurting?
impacting you,
How is
basically?
it impacting you? Is it
Right.
impacting
Mashallah.
your family life?
Mm.
Or is it just impacting yourself? So
That's a good one.
the
Right. Right.
level of impact, yeah, tells you how severe, how much actions you need to put in. Sometimes, let's say, if the impact if the stress is disrupting your relationship with Allah, your religion, maybe the action is more drastic you need to take. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
But
Yep.
if it's impacting your relationship with your parents, your spouse, your children, a different step needs to be taken. And if it's just affecting yourself, whether personal dissatisfaction, career encouragement, recognition whatsoever, then it's a different aspect. So once you able to to distinguish this to quantify this problem, then it makes it easier for you to find solution.
That's
Mashallah,
brilliant.
great point.
Mashallah.
Yeah. So it's like deconstructing what you are going through and going about it in an objective way, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mashallah.
Even just to add on that, even the phrase "I hate my job," right? Let's try to break this down. So when you say "I hate my job," it's a very personal experience. So it means you gotta ask questions like, okay, how about other people who have my job? Are they also hating what they do? What do they do differently? So if you start having this conversation about others, maybe you can start igniting that passion as well. There's another side of it that maybe you haven't experienced, but your coworkers are. But you might also find that everybody hates their job that you just didn't know. So maybe it has nothing to do with the job itself. Maybe there are other things. At least now you're one step ahead in knowing what's the problem. So that's one of it. And also when we talk about the word hate, right? I hate my job. Hate is a very strong emotional experience, right? So and it's not necessarily rational. As human beings, we have a lot of things going on in our lives. So when you talk about hate, I think as Ame pinpointed earlier, can be many things in your own personal life that can affect what you have in your job, and also vice versa. As Reza highlighted, your dissatisfaction in your job can affect your life, and because your life has been negatively impacted, it also affects how you are dissatisfied about your job. It makes you grumpier, which you don't realize. Because you're grumpier, you actually make the working culture worse for other people. So, by the way, you're making other people also resent their jobs. You don't, and these are all subconscious things which we don't realize. And I think one of the things that I just wanted to share, are you aware of this Pareto principle? I think all of us have heard this before, this 80-20 rule, right?
80-20.
Yeah, so most of the time, so basically the rule goes like this. 80% of the results or the consequences comes from only 20% of the causes. Now, people like to apply this Pareto principle when it comes to things like productivity. So things that give you 80% of the productivity results are related to 20% of your tasks. Okay, fine. But look at this dissatisfaction in that way as well. Maybe what's causing that 80% of your dissatisfaction is only a small portion of your work. It could be a difficult boss, maybe a toxic coworker, maybe it's the lack of feeling challenged by your job. So you really have to get into context and really understanding where is your pain point when it comes to these issues.
Sahih.
And also when it comes to, let's dissect the third word now, I hate my job. So then if it's my job, so maybe you have to really address the question about, maybe it is the job itself, maybe it's not suitable for you, or maybe it's a feeling of you're just not competent enough. And that's the thing about human beings, right? When we are unfamiliar about something, when we feel something is strange or like we just cannot dissect this beast, we'll hate it even more. That's how it is. And I face through this as well. I look at my coworkers and I'm looking at them. Everyone knows what to do except me. I hate it, man. this is so annoying. That's what I went through. And yeah, when you understand where this comes from, at least you know which problems to tackle first. And the focus here is on what you can do. Also, actually, go ahead.
And maybe some way that you try to be to reduce some of the stress and tension with your current situation. Yeah, it's also worthwhile to always look at the positive that what you have. Yeah, like what you mentioned just now. Yeah? For instance, in your job. Yeah, think of it. You still think of all the good colleagues that you make friends with throughout your professional career. So that's something good that come out of it.
Yeah.
Or maybe the courses, the fancy courses that you managed to go to, all the skills that you managed to acquire. If you're not in that organization, you might not get it. Yeah. Those are small things, or maybe big things, and it is beneficial to you, and it is a direct result because of the job you're working on. So those are, look into that, like so that builds time shukur. Or at least it kind of like it acts a bit like a Panadol to cover up some of your stress.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Wow, mashallah. Yeah, that's something that I realized as well. I think we're getting now a bit into the how, but when you start really getting intentional about what you do like about your job, you might find that it's actually not what you expect. It's not maybe it's not necessarily the job per se, but it's those other things. So for me personally, I found out throughout the years that one of the things that motivate me the most is to have healthy relationships with my coworkers. I found some of the best friends that I found are through having these very strong personal relationships because we cultivate them. And that's some of the things that we feel that, oh, it's a given. No, it's not. Actually, the thing is, uh, the professional relationships that you have are one of the best things that can give you passion in your job. So I think this is something that we should get in touch with.
So sometimes do you have an before you hate your job? I remember Akif Faisal told that he used to feel you had your job, right?
Yeah.
So is it because you expect your expectation was not how to say relevant with your the reality of the work? Is it one
Yeah.
of the reason?
Yeah, there is one of that. Yeah. So we thought that the job's supposed to be this, but the challenges that came with it was something else. So that
So I want to imagine how the SpaceX staff would expect the job would be, right? I mean, who work with Elon Musk?
Yeah.
true. Yeah, that's a good point.
But
Yeah.
what Elon Musk does best, a lot of I think Jeff Bezos and Amazon does the same. They always try to be clear in the goals of the company, and they always make it. They try their best to make sure every employee feel that their work contributed to this goal.
Okay.
So they
That's the
always feel
difference
that,
maker, right?
yeah, my 10%, my 5% gives. I mean, my 80% gives 2% of this total outcome. So they always have that in
Yep.
mind.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. That's right.
Okay.
That's very good. Yeah. Yeah, actually, the thing about positive and interaction, I remember recalling one of our previous experiences. So we had this team, and our boss called it the dream team. So that really elevated the whole morale behind it, right? But the
Mashallah.
job was really, really difficult. But the thing is, we were a small team and we were quite young at the time. It was six of us, I think. And it was actually, we call ourselves the best team ever. I remember we cultivated this this kind of relationships that was so strong that throughout the end of the year when we did this performance review, so I asked one of our colleagues, I said, okay, well, what do you think about working in this team? And he said, you know, for once, I actually look forward to going to work.
Mashallah.
Yeah, I
Oh,
thought, wow,
mashallah.
that's amazing because the
Mashallah.
job is very stressful. We were managing a more than 100 million ringgit project at the time. It was very, very tough. The deadlines were really crazy. But because we had this feeling of psychological safety, this feeling of the camaraderie within the team, that just made us feel like, oh, let's do it, man. We got this, right? We got your back, you know? So
Right.
that's,
Right.
I felt that before. And I feel that that's not something that's very common because
Mm.
since then I've never
Mm.
really felt that spark again. So I
Right.
think these kind of things that if we can try and discover that, it can really add so much to our jobs. And the thing is about positive working environment, right? You see, you everyone loves a positive working environment. Is that right?
Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
Nobody loves
Yeah.
a toxic kind of grumpy, always whining kind of thing, right? But the
Yeah.
thing is, people expect the working environment to be positive, and then you reciprocate. You know what I mean?
Oh.
But if you like that positive environment and you know that other people like that, why don't you be a positive person to other people's environment? So that's something I
Mm.
realized. When we talk about sadaqah,
Yeah.
right? The concept of charity in Islam. So when you look at the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says there's so many
So,
ways that you can give sadaqah, and one of them is just by giving a kind word. So it's actually a form of sadaqah, and by smiling. And when you have these simple steps, and one thing I did notice when you look at the patterns about the hadith of sadaqah, it always it always implies an action of going out of your way to help other people to make their lives better. It means you have to go through some inconvenience, right?
mm.
Moving something harmful from the road, which is
Mm.
actually different from the way society thinks. We like to put people at inconvenience for our convenience, right? Just look at parking habits of Malaysians, you know. So,
That's good. Good example.
so I
On
mean,
Friday,
Friday
especially on
Oh.
prayers,
Friday.
Allah Mustaan. Right. So I mean, coming back to the idea about sadaqah, if you can implement this at the workplace, if you can just make that small positive changes in your workplace, I mean, of course, it's going to be awkward at first. That's the thing. People don't like this
Mm-hmm.
awkwardness, so we were going to avoid it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you do it consistently, oh, you're going to see so much difference, man. So I think this is one of the advice that I can share when it comes to cultivating these positive relationships at the workplace. You have to start first. You have to be the change that you want to see.
It's look
Inshallah.
like it's more important to find what you can contribute than finding your passion. Can I say like that?
Contribute. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so contribute links to a greater sense of purpose.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's a very good point.
No,
Yeah, and another one as well that
because
really
yeah,
impacted me. Oh, sorry.
sometimes yeah.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, go ahead. Sorry, sorry. Yeah, there was a lag just now.
No problem. Yeah. Go ahead, Faisal. I think my internet is not that good.
Okay, okay, yeah. Yeah, one of the things that I found for me, I discovered was the thing that made me unhappy about my job was because of the lack of competency. So
Oh.
that's something that I had to train myself. And again, because it's something that's so unfamiliar to you, you feel uncomfortable to do it. So you always procrastinate it, you put it aside. But I
Mhm.
came to a point where, okay, fine, I'm just going to confront this. I have to do it. And so I just gave it all out and I just did one thing at a time, just got a bit better at it. I struggled through it. I fought through the ignorance. I went through a lot of shame through it. And I think I shared this story in another series where I even consulted my senior and I got shot for it. So, oh, don't waste my time. You should know these basic things. And I'm like, whoa, man.
Right.
Oh, I always get that, bro.
Oh, you always get that
Yeah.
until today?
Yeah,
Subhanallah.
until today.
Wow, that's frustrating, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, you just keep doing it,
Yeah.
keep doing it, keep doing it, and you see, you don't realize how better you get if you keep
Mm.
moving forward. And I realized that I can actually do a bit of this, and then I started to get a bit better at it, and I started I kind of enjoy it now. And then when I start to get a bit better at it, I started to share it with other people, and then I realized that when I share it with other people, that made me like it even more. So I realized
Right.
that that aspect of sharing knowledge, that communication part, gave me some passion towards it, which I never thought I'd have. So that's something that I never expected. So I realized that when you put in the work, you might uncover something, a nice surprise that you never thought you have. So that was a nice revelation for me.
MashaAllah. So it's like passion actually is about, it doesn't come automatic in most cases, right? It's more about self-discovery and growth. Like in your case, Faisal, that you found that when you shared it, you found the satisfaction of sharing that knowledge after that, So that
Absolutely,
links
yeah.
to the your passion and your inner core values as well. So it's always like a misconception that when generalizing passion in the sense that it feels like you are automatically supposed to know what you're passionate about, right? But
Right.
99% out of the time it is not the case. You have to discover it for yourself, what you feel strongly linked to, what you enjoy, what gives your heart satisfaction,
Yeah.
what gives you meaning. For example, the challenges. A lot of times, as human beings, we also don't like challenges per se, but
Okay.
challenges, when you achieve something, that gives you a lot of satisfaction in the sense that it gives you a lot of self-worth, and that
Yeah,
gives
that's true.
you, that contributes a lot of to your job satisfaction as well. And in the sense that if finding your passion is about discovering yourself, um, for example, it also has to do with a lot of your inner core values and personality. For example,
Ah.
um, a person who is more of a listener, who likes to listen to other people's issues and feel strongly about human values, this person might be more inclined or much more suited in a profession in humanities, for example, as a career, as a doctor or a psychologist, because it's linked to their core values, like what makes their soul satisfied is
Mm.
by virtue of helping people and listening, not in the sense of the conventional business, let's say how you go about business. So sometimes it is closely linked to the type of person you are, the different personality types, and what gives you satisfaction in terms of your values. So I think that's one thing that we should all reflect in the discovery of looking for our passion. That it's not a straightforward thing. It's something that you have to discover, and you have to know yourself to know what you are passionate about, basically. And in that journey, have a fulfilling career. So you might not discover it in your first job, even in your second job, but it's a growth process that as you go towards time, as long as you are learning something new, it's not necessarily a bad thing that you are in a bad job or you hate your job at the same time. There's always an opportunity to learn and grow and become better and become closer to what you are passionate about, so it's not like a simple process, like a generalization that Aki Aziz mentioned before.
I he Reza's point, about discovering your passion. But I think that the key enabler for you to do that, is you have this learning mindset.
Right, yeah, that's
Regardless,
very
you must
true,
have this learning mindset, and that's one thing. And this having this learning mindset, can also reverse any negative energy and try to change it to something positive. The least you
Oh,
can
yeah?
do, for instance,
Okay.
let's say, and it works for a lot of people, including myself. Let's say you're in a environment where you're surrounded by negative people, negative culture whatsoever. So, but then how are you going to get this? What sort of learning mindset you can adapt here? So the very least you can say this. So this is something I need to learn, not to do it on others. This is something I'm not supposed to emulate in the future. So
What not to do.
At least.
what not to do. So instead of
Okay.
learning the positive, you learn the negative.
Right.
So it's still learning, but
Yeah, that's true. That's a good
That's
point.
true. Yeah.
trying to learn what should I not do in the future.
Yeah, wow.
Mashallah.
That's an interesting point because I had a family member who was going through that. So he's going through all these toxic colleagues. And one of the things I advise is try and turn it to something positive. You feel that you're not satisfied about your job because you're dealing with difficult people, right? Well, did you think about your handling difficult people is actually a skill?
Yeah.
This guy, he likes to play games. So he likes to play role-playing games. So I said, okay, imagine that negotiation is one of your perks, right? So now your negotiation skill is like level 6. So now you're going to meet this toxic coworker. He's like boss level 5.
Boss.
So, you change it into something of a personal, like a achievement kind of thing. And we love achievements, don't we?
Right.
So if you start to gamify things, so this is something interesting that I found, gamification. It's about turning your mundane task into something that you can change it into a challenge, a game, and it makes it really exciting. So you're like, okay, so let's say you have boss, right? So boss is is a difficult coworker level 9, right? And then your senior is like difficult coworker level 6. So you approach your boss, you're like, oh, I failed. Okay, I'm not level 9 yet. You can make it something fun, So, and then I like the point about you saying learning mindset. That will kind of force you into, not to say force you, but that will encourage you to learn new skills and how I can attempt on these things. Because that tells you that state that you're in right now, it's not just because of your lack of skill or your lack of talent in that area. It just means that you don't have acquired the skills yet. So think about it that way. Something that you can learn.
And also that also teach you to be resilient, and
Yes.
take pride in that. You're to say that I'm a resilient person, so take pride in that, because you're no slave to anyone. You're at work, you have expectations on what to do, what to expect from that work. So you're not slave to anybody. And if you can overcome that challenge, I'm a resilient person, And I think in the Deen, there's one. I think that is like the trump card, like we have this, and you're gonna be resilient most of the time. It's like the issue of like if let's say your work does not motivate you whatsoever, at least you're acquiring halal sustenance. That itself is a motivation. Fulfilling your amanah, that itself is a motivation. If you have a strong motivation, then nothing's going to bring you down. Even though the harshness of critics and difficult personality is just going to be, it's just a wall that I can bring it down if I want to. I'm just not going to do it right now.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very good point. Mashallah. And talking about discovering your passion, it's important to highlight that it can be a trial and error thing. If you don't like it, just move on. So there's a very good TED talk about this. It's called "Why Specializing Early Doesn't Always Mean Career Success." This talk really resonated with me.
I've listened to this talk as well.
Oh, you have? Oh, I love it, man.
Mashallah.
Who was the speaker?
Sorry, his name is
Who's the
David
speaker?
Epstein.
Okay.
Yeah, so one of the things that Reza actually highlighted just now was that our society seems to have this huge admiration towards child prodigies, high flyers, people who are just like, since their birth, they found their passion and true calling, and they're like, oh, okay, but by the way, that's not like I think Aziz highlighted, that's not 99% of the society, right? For many of us, we have no idea what we want to do in life, isn't it? And what I love about this talk is that it's saying that, you see, when it comes to people who discover their passion later in life, they actually have a greater degree of success and sustained happiness in life because they have gone through that process of discovery. It's different from the person who has specialized since early. They may realize that not so nice after all. And the thing is, when you've invested so much effort into it, you start to come to a point where like you kind of feel like you need to move on, but because you have that bias, oh, I am who I am today because of that, so you don't want to let go. That's also very toxic for you. So
Just like
that's
Sarah, right? The
like
bakery
the
shop.
Sarah, the bakery shop, as you mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important for us to remember that
Right.
it's never too late to make a change. It's never too late to discover yourself, to learn new things, and to suddenly you never know, you might be passionate about something that you always thought was something of a chore. And so I also went through this myself. I spent actually 2 years of my career. I went doing something which was completely different from what I'm supposed to do. So I did something in project management, and I was really into it now. I really enjoyed that job. But after 2 years, I was not allowed to change that career path. So I was really stressed now. So a lot of people were commenting and saying that you wasted 2 years of your career. But now when I look back at it, I think that it's not wasting. Actually, there are a lot of great things that I learned throughout those 2 years that make me a better decision maker that I am today. So never
Right.
think about wasted time. As long as you're growing, you're learning something, you're building relationships, there's always something valuable. You're never starting from zero. So I think that's something that I learned throughout the years, mashallah.
So
MashaAllah.
where did it start? I mean, where should we start to find our passion? Should we start with what make us curious, or just start?
That's a good one, yeah. So curiosity is definitely a good start. You have to ask yourself again, what makes you happy? What makes your, as they use the phrase, what makes your heart
Hard
sing?
thing.
Right? I think we read about this in the book, The Storyteller's Secret, isn't it, Aziz?
Yeah, TED Talk, storytelling
Yeah.
secret. Yeah.
Yeah, so there are aspects, as Reza and Amir mentioned early on, that there are aspects about your job which you don't like, but there are aspects about it which you do like as well. So, for example, one of the things that I didn't realize was that I actually enjoy technical discussions. I love this kind of when people get together and disagree, because you can hear so much more, and I can learn so fast. And I also realized that I'm not the kind of guy who likes reading standards. I'm very slow at that. That's just my weakness. So because I had to do a lot of that, that's what made me dislike the job. But what I
Right.
love about the job was to have to discuss with people, especially with experts, and I love to have this kind of sparring with them. So that's the, and then I pursued that path. So I did something which was a bit of a niche. I became a facilitator for hazard studies. And people don't really like this because it's very uncomfortable, because you have to facilitate sometimes big heads, and people
Yep.
will have it's very difficult. But for some reason this guy likes it. So I'm like, oh, okay.
I guess at times it can be confrontational, or it has a lot of uncomfortable discussions related
yeah.
to it, huh?
Oh yeah, it does.
So it makes people uncomfortable to have
It,
in that situation, I guess.
Yeah, people running away from it. I remember my
Yep.
coworkers were making all sorts of excuses not to get certified, but this guy was going for it. So yeah, I think
MashaAllah.
that's very important. You just ask yourself, be curious not just about the job, but also about yourself. You never know, actually. So you have to try and break it down. Even things like, for example, coach. I one thing I didn't know very early on in my career was that I actually enjoy presenting. And people think about when you enjoy presentations, people have this impression that, oh, this guy is somebody who looks for publicity. But the thing is, what I realized was, what I loved about presentations was the idea about communicating to other people. The idea that as an engineer you can take something that's very complex and make it simple so that other people can make decisions. I enjoyed that point A to point B. So I realized that I actually enjoyed coaching. So that's something I didn't expect to like. And I can only do that after I've done the hard things, after I've gone
Exactly.
through the hardship. Like, for example, I like coaching, right? But you can't coach if you don't know anything, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I had to break that barrier. I had to struggle through it. I had to go through some shame, some difficulties. And then when I reached that point where I'm a little bit better, then I can start having that part with exercise, which I did like. So I think that's something that hopefully can be beneficial for you to advise. So I hope that answered your question, Aziz.
Yeah. It's very good. Inshallah.
Sometimes you find passion at the most unexpected, awkward
All
in
right.
a situation. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
For
Okay.
instance, okay. Yeah, I come to a point in my career once that I feel I gotta quit. I just don't. I dislike this job. Yeah. So
Okay.
I'm still an adamant believer that you shouldn't quit. If you dislike today, tomorrow you should quit. that's not the way you should do. Yeah, you
Okay.
should lay out some plans. Yeah. So one of the plans you need to do, I need to consider whether you want to, if you need to jump ship, are you going to stay in the same line, the same technical profession, or you want to do something out of your hobby, passion, you monetize your hobby. Yeah. So it's okay.
Yeah.
Let's keep all options open. Yeah. So okay, one path I was doing is okay, let's find somewhere external opportunities. So one of my habit is I like to update my CV all the time. Yeah. So I want to make my
Oh,
CV
wow, do
like
you?
gold plated. Yeah? So,
Oh.
but the thing is like when I do that
Mashallah.
CV, yeah. So that's it. Okay. If I want to be marketable, so I need to do A, B, C. Yeah. So now I'm only I'm only A. I have not gone B and C yet. Yeah. So okay, no worries. I'm gonna quit my job next year. So I got 1 year to do it. So then
Okay.
I'll draft a plan for myself. I draft
Right.
Allah, I
Mashallah.
draft a plan. This is what I need to. These are the standards I need to read. This is the type of job I really need to hunt. Like I need, the work I need to hunt for it, fight for this job. And
Okay.
after 6 months of doing it, Qadar Allah, I like the job. I like my job. Yeah. After doing all this, I like my job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then Alhamdulillah, then I just continue with what I have. Yeah. Just so
Right. Right.
it's but all that learning came not because I like this job, because I hated this job and I really need to move on. But that process of moving on forces me to acquire to close my gaps. So closing that gaps inevitably reignited my passion for this job. Yeah, or it wasn't reignited. This suddenly I found out that I actually have a bit of passion for this job. Yeah, and I just continue with that. Yeah, yeah.
Mashallah.
So do not make a harsh decision. Yeah, take your time. That if you really dislike, take your time. Have a plan.
Mm,
Have a plan. Whether you want to monetize your interest, your hobby, or your passion, or you want to find external opportunity. So that plan needs to be is ongoing. So it goes like doing constant networking. Yeah. When you do networking, it's not just about finding the greener pasture from the other side, but also the not so greener pasture from the other side. So you know
Oh yeah,
reality.
that's
Yeah.
true. That's true. Yeah,
Reality,
Yeah.
subhanallah.
Yeah. Mashallah.
maybe the work culture, environment, bosses, processes, things like that. Just so you know, oh, okay, maybe I'm bad. I think it's bad, but that side is actually
Was
I wouldn't want to go
I
there.
don't want to do
Yeah.
that.
Things like that. Yeah.
Amazing.
Mashallah.
great
Actually-
point. Make a plan, right? So we used to hear someone complain, I had my job. So when they're going to resign, I don't know, but they don't have any plan yet.
That's true.
Yeah,
That
that's
means
the
the
problem.
key
Yeah.
thing that you should
Yep.
be.
Make a
Because-
plan to resign.
yeah, actually, subhanallah, when you said that, I mean, I went through the exact same thing. I was like 90% certain I was going to quit. So I tried to dig up about the other side. I got research from this. And like, you know what? I'm just going to give myself some time. I'm just going to go all out. I'm going to get certified for this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And then after that, khalas, I'm going to go. And then I started,
Mashallah.
just like you, I'm like, hey, wait a minute. I can get the hang of this, you know?
That's right. Yeah, mashallah.
You know,
The
there's-
hadith thing that sometimes when you want to love, you love mildly. And you're gonna hate, you also hate mildly, yeah. But sometimes
amazing.
what you love
Amazing,
you might hate it
amazing.
later, and sometimes you hate, you might love it in the future. Yeah?
That hits
Yeah.
home, man. MashaAllah. I
Also-
remember reading. Sorry, just a side story. Remember they used to have this chain emails that used to share like this like a moral of the story thing. One of the stories that I used to read was about this this guy. He hated his mother-in-law, so he went to see this wise man. Oh, what should I do? He's like, okay, feed her this thing. And it's gonna kill her, but it's gonna take some time. So in the meantime, you don't want to suspect anything, so you're gonna treat her nicely. So he treat her nicely, feed her a bit, and then feed her a bit, then feed her a bit. So she was being very obnoxious towards him, but he just be bore with it patiently. It's okay, you're gonna die soon anyway. So so he kept on doing it again, and over time, the mother-in-law become nicer and nicer and nicer, and then eventually he's like, you know what? I'm starting to like this woman. So he went to the wise man. He's like, you know what? Can I reverse it somehow? I don't want to kill her now. He said, you know what? That's actually a placebo. I didn't give you anything. I just gave you like some simple herbs I found at the market. But look what happened now, right? Now you actually love your mom. So that's the lesson. So when you start to actually adjust yourself, you might actually, what you don't like, you might actually start to like it. And even in the Quran, Allah says this. In Surah Fussilat, Allah says, idfa' billati hiya ahsan. Fight away the evil with what is best. فَإِذَا الَّذِي بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَهُ عَدَاوَةٌ كَأَنَّهُ وَلِيٌّ حَمِيمٌ. And if you do that consistently, the one who you had this strong enmity against might even become your best friend. I was like, wow. So imagine
Mashallah.
the same thing can happen in your job. Something you hate so much, but you're like, I'm gonna bear with it, man. Eventually you're gonna like it. And I remember this phrase by Sufyan Athauri. It's a tribute to him, but I couldn't find the exact source. But people say that it's from him. He says that I used to have jihad with myself in tahajjud for 30 years to pray the night prayer. The first 10 years, I hated it. And then the second 10 years, okay, I get the hang of it. And the last 10 years, I can't live without it. Something to that effect. So I think that's very interesting. He discovered his passion through fighting to 20 years, man. 20 years is not short, right? we haven't even worked that long, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, Reza, you say? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was also just reminded by an ayah in Surah An-Nisa, ayah 19. Might be that you dislike something which Allah has placed a lot of good in it. So that's something that is something resonates with what we were talking about. That make do with what you have and have a plan, and perhaps you like it, and perhaps Allah has placed a lot of good in it that you don't know in the first place, but you should discover that. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out.
MashaAllah. Amazing.
And if, let's say, if you cannot find passion, yeah, in your work, yeah, before you want to quit or whatever, so maybe try something like that, like to let off some steam at work, yeah. For instance, I tried my best, I still couldn't find passion in work. So maybe what you need to do is take some time off by picking up a hobby, do something meaningful outside of work, yeah. So now you compartmentalize your effort at work in this compartment, and the rest of my effort in let's say to study, to do whatever other things, meaningful work, meaningful stuff on another compartment. So then you always feel recharged. You're not feel lethargic. You're not all the bad experience at work will not just be lingering after work. So like, there's a switch on, switch off button.
Right.
So it helps you to at least de-stress yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that point.
This is good. Yeah, I love that point because right now I'm doing gardening.
Yeah, I've seen your Instagram, man. Yeah,
it's like therapy for me. Sometimes in job we have something we hate. Like me myself, I hate to do papers, to write papers.
Okay.
I think
Paperwork. Okay.
Yeah, paperwork. So every time I do the paper, I did it almost every day. So
Okay.
every 20 minutes, every 50 minutes, every hour, I will go outside because we are working from home, right?
Right.
So that's the time I
then you look
Look at your
marvel at the
plants.
garden.
and plus
Nice.
without my job I cannot I mean I don't have money for my hobby, right?
Brilliant.
That's right.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's a good point way of thinking. Yeah.
It's like
The driver for work.
this the driver
yeah.
for work.
Sustain my hobby. That's true. How many people like especially millennium they work really hard jobs so they can go two holidays a year.
Yeah.
They take really hard jobs so they can go travel to the.
Yeah.
At least you can do to have to love your job, right?
Yeah.
So it's a means to your end, like something that you find meaning to, and builds up to that.
Even what we do now, for example, in the Barakah Effect. So I actually, one of the things that motivate me to do my job better now is so that I can learn new things so I can talk about it in this podcast.
Mashallah, yeah.
Mashallah.
So I'm like, oh, come on, bring the difficult co-workers, man. I want to talk about this.
We need that story, right?
Yeah, we need that story, man. I'm out of juice, man. and I think about other things as well. Like, I need that pay so I can buy new mics, new stands, new lighting. I guess we're getting really meta now, aren't we?
Mashallah.
Yeah. But if you have that passion, a hobby, don't jump straight to say, okay, I'm gonna make my career out of my hobby. Also be mindful, like also draft a plan, if that's really the case. Also the reality that business and hobby can be different.
That's true.
That is one of the passion trap. Hobbies and personal passion doesn't always translate to fulfilling careers, right? Just because you enjoy doing something in your free time doesn't necessarily mean that you have the same joy out of it if you're doing it day in and day out. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, true.
Mashallah.
True.
Yeah. Also, another one is the decision about quitting. So,
Never.
for example, people like to say that when you face difficulties at your workplace, I'll make my own workplace. So they start starting up their own business, which is okay, fine. I mean, there are lots of amazing stories coming out from that. But if you, for example, you quit because you face certain difficulties, there's no guarantee that we won't run into that same difficulty. And the thing is, if you yourself haven't developed the skills to confront that situation, you might even be even more stressed out later on. So, for example,
Yeah.
you have difficulties in dealing with toxic coworkers. You say, "I'll be my own boss," and you're still going to deal with people anyway. The thing is, like, the problem about this mindset is that you're escaping the problem. You're not developing yourself to handle that situation. So that's something they have to be mindful of. I think that's something that people don't see that aspect sometimes. And
Mashallah, great point.
also one of the things that I was wondering, what do you think? Is it possible to be excellent at something, best your job, SME, but you still hate it? Is it possible?
Might be.
Okay, I'm gonna share something. You know the tennis player Andre Agassi?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's a good player.
Great player, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He has a book called Open. It's an autobiography. The book is about, brace yourself, how much he hates the sport.
And he's regarded as one of the best, right?
Exactly. He's regarded as the
Subhanallah.
best, right? But he hates the sport. He hates tennis. And the thing is, so the book goes into, it's a very authentic. I've never read it, but I've read a lot of reviews about it, and I'm looking forward to read it one day, inshallah. So the idea is that he was forced into it. His parents just kind of just pushed him into it. And the thing is, he hated the sport, but here's the thing: he hated losing even more. so, so
Oh,
what drove
okay.
him was not passion. What was passionate hatred against something else, which was more than that passionate hatred that he had for the sport.
So he flipped his mindset. Like he didn't focus on what he hated as tennis. He had that focus that he wants to be the best at the competition.
Exactly.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But subhanallah, you look at him.
There's another sports personality. Like, have you heard of this Argentina player called Gabriel Batistuta?
Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
he's really good in playing football. Yeah. So he plays
Yeah.
in one of the best clubs. Yeah. But he's not passionate at all about football. In fact, outside of when he's not playing football game or training, he never speaks about football, never watch football, doesn't know the history of all the great players, doesn't know anything. He just know that at this time, I need to go training, and the end of the week, I got to play a match. That's
You got
it.
paid.
And got paid really handsomely.
subhanallah.
Yeah. He doesn't encourage his children to play football.
His hobby is?
I don't know what's his hobby. Perhaps gardening.
That's amazing, mashallah.
Amazing. So any example of scholars? They don't have patience to
Good at
seek knowledge, but by time they are
it.
They develop that
excellent.
passion.
Yeah,
Is it?
yeah.
Because I think that one ties a lot to niyat, yeah. So if because you know you understand the reward that comes from it. So even though you dislike, you force yourself to do it, and then you ask for Allah's help to make you like it. And inshallah, almost all the time Allah will make you like that.
Yeah, but I think that's a very good question.
Perhaps the
from Aziz.
story.
Just to bring it to something a bit more relatable. So maybe scholars, for people like us, okay, it's a bit of a distance away.
Yep.
But for example, I like to bring the topic about Quran. When people don't know anything, like when they feel that the competency of the Quran it's not so great, they don't really like it. They don't really enjoy it. So Quran becomes a chore. It's only something you do in Ramadan, kind of meet my KPI, gotta finish 30 juz by 30 days. So it becomes something very mechanical, very ritualistic. But you see, the more you improve your competency in it, the more you start to memorize it, the more you start to understand what you're saying, the passion builds. And it's going to come to a point where you really, really start to enjoy it. But it's going to take a while. You have to go through some hours. You have to, when you understand Arabic a bit more, then like, wow, I can appreciate this verse in a different way now. And it takes some time. SubhanAllah, it's a journey for all of us. But if we never started, we'll always, because I hear this all the time. People say, "Oh, I'm not good in Quran," so they just give up like that. But trust me, there's something that you love about it. You just haven't discovered it yet. So I think that's something,
MashaAllah.
a good reminder.
There's one thing about this Quran, because I came across this maybe a bit different. I mean, a bit off topic. Like
Sure.
everyone is fearful of something, yeah, stressed out of something, whether their work or family, they'll have something that they'll be fearful of, yeah, and that fear usually results to some stress, yeah. But fear to Allah and His books will not will result not to stress, will result to being contented in life. So it's a different outcome to fear.
Yeah, that's true actually.
Mm.
Yeah, and also I wanted to highlight this point is because when people are unfamiliar with the lessons of the Quran, they will always feel religion is something that's stressful. Oh, religion is about haram, haram, can't do this, can't do this. So I don't want to learn because that will mean I have to restrict many more things in life. But trust
Yeah.
me, when you start going down that path, you like it more. Sure, you will discover that, but you also discover a lot of great things as well. And honestly, this is something that I didn't expect. So this is something when you actually start. I remember Reza sharing, you he somebody promoted a course to him. He doesn't know what to expect. He's like, okay, I'll just give it a shot. And lo and behold, right, you're on this
Yeah.
path. It's really amazing
Subhanallah.
stuff.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
the thing that you don't really know what you would like until you go into it, so that's something that's worth exploring. And also it ties into passion as well. Passion is something to be discovered, to be explored, and therefore you can't just sit around and say, I'm waiting for my passion to come, I'm waiting for my inspiration. You have to go out and do things and see, okay, I like this, or maybe not this thing, I don't really like that. So
yeah.
it's a path of self-discovery. And like also to come back to what Faisal mentioned about the TED talk before, the difference between the person who is really good at what they do naturally, and what they discover after a while, and in the long term, the person who went on the path of self-discovery and discovering their passion actually has a lot more satisfaction in what they are doing, because they know they've explored.
Mm.
Mm.
They know their boundaries, they know their limits, as opposed to that first person who only knows one thing, and he doesn't know what, he hasn't tested his boundaries, and he hasn't pushed his you know uh, limits. So basically, in that sense, when you go and explore and look for that, in the long run you will benefit from it, because you know what you want, you know what you like, you know what you dislike. So in the end, what you would arrive to in that place is that you know that you are supposed to be in that place, and you are content. So that's something about discovering passion as well.
Very good.
Mm.
And also talking about we'll talk about topic of ihsan. I've seen many examples where people they derive a lot of satisfaction from doing when they think about the impact that they have. When you are working in a very service-based industry, sometimes that satisfaction of treating your customers well, just putting a smile on your face, that can be very motivating. I remember going to one meeting in a contractor's office 2 years ago, I think, and there was a janitor working at the pantry. She's an auntie. She's maybe about my mom's age at the time, I think. So she's quite senior. Oh, but the way she worked, man, so much excitement. It's like, how are you? Assalamu alaikum. You try the coffee. You don't want to try the coffee? Come on, this is really good stuff. I'm like, it's like, to be honest, that's the best thing about the whole meeting.
Mashallah.
even the guys who get paid, I don't know, so much more than me, right? They're not showing that passion. But this auntie is like, wow, this is
Yeah.
the most motivating thing of this meeting, man. And when you think about it, right,
Mashallah.
that impact alone, you know that thing leaves a positive thing in you. Why don't you do that to other people? That's what I always think. I even come across examples where you meet people at a toll booth when they show this level of enthusiasm. SubhanAllah, it just like wow, it makes my day, man.
Yeah, it's infectious, huh?
It's infectious, yeah. So if you
Mashallah.
know that you can do this to other people, you can do this. That's what other people can have towards you. You can do this to other people
Yeah.
as well. I think it's always a good reminder for us because
That's
everywhere
like
you
the
do.
hadith, right? Like if you strive for what benefits you, and the work job at the
Mm.
very least is seeking halal resistance is of benefit to you. So
Yeah, it's
seek
true.
Allah help, and then don't be lazy, and don't feel incapable. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mashallah.
It's
Another
a
one
good
also.
formula to follow. Mashallah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one. Another one also just about the how. When you face difficulties or challenges, talk to your boss. Oh, people are gonna say, oh, I don't want to do that. Right?
Oh.
No, but okay,
It's a taboo topic, huh?
it is. It is. People avoid the conversations with their boss. But the
Yeah.
thing is, okay, before this, you need to go to your own self first, right? You have to assess yourself, what you like and what you don't like, have a conversation with other people so you can assess where you are. And once you've really broken down the aspects of what's triggering that unhappiness, then maybe you can talk to him, talk to your boss. Maybe you can inquire if you can have more challenging assignments or less challenging assignments, depending on what's your fancy. Or if you need additional resources, or what you can do to change the work environment, or some constructive criticism towards the leadership management. Oh, this is the part where people go like, "Ugh, I don't want to do that," right? But that's the thing. We tend to avoid difficult conversations. Right? We and here's another thing. This happens a lot. People always have project negative bias on other people. So when it comes to talking about my boss, people immediately assume, they're not gonna listen to me. They don't care. They just care for themselves. It's not like they're not gonna do anything about it. This is a problem. You created this perception. You are the because
Right.
of and then because of that, it's they don't care anyway. And how? Okay, I always ask myself this question: how would you feel if people say that about you? Faisal is not gonna care anyway. Faisal cannot do anything anyway. It's quite
Yeah.
hurtful, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Subhanallah.
yeah.
So, I mean, by the way, when you do these conversations with your boss, it's not gonna work all the time. We're human beings, right? I have gotten shouted at, and that's life. Move on. I know. At least now I know, right? I know. Okay, level 12 boss right there. Okay, move on. So, but the
What
thing
doesn't
is,
kill you makes you stronger.
what doesn't kill you makes you
Right.
stronger. Also,
I need more XP points, right?
yeah, I need to upgrade my sword, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, what I found was that you'll be pleasantly surprised at how things will turn out. If you actually have very honest conversations, wow, it's just amazing. I had a lot of very positive encounters when I talk to boss. Just simply pick up the phone sometimes. And one of the times I remember
How do you start, bro?
Oh yeah, that was
Yeah.
interesting.
How do
One
you
of the
start?
one of the years that we went through, our coworkers, we were rated very low, our performance appraisals. So everyone was really demotivated, and people were just kind of talking about him, but not to him. People talking
Yeah.
about him.
Yep. Yeah.
This happens all the time,
It
right?
happens a lot, huh?
Hashtag water cooler talk, right? So, so they were complaining, and I just asked them, have you told him about this? And they said that they said what I said to you just now. He's like, he doesn't listen anyway, he doesn't care. And the thing is, okay, I just listened to it and I just collected their feedback. And I just went to the boss office one day. I just had a conversation. I said, "Hey, boss, how's it going? Is everything okay?
Okay.
Can I just understand what happened here?" And then, okay, just to cut the story short, it turns out that after this conversation, I found out that he's actually struggling with his job. He actually doesn't know what to do, and
Right.
because he and the thing is, because he's not really has a strong grasp. He gets a lot of negative input from his own coworkers. That makes
Okay.
him more defensive. Doesn't that make
Oh.
things worse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And nobody broke the barrier like having these kind of conversations. So
Right.
eventually, when I started to talk with him about this, that conversation turned into a how can I help conversation. Then we can work towards a solution. And ever since then, and this was an amazing story. I mean,
Mashallah.
there's so many lessons. I think I'll repeat this same story in other episodes because there's so many lessons from it. But the following year, all of us got good ratings. So
Mashallah.
it's really sometimes you think that, oh man, if I'm gonna give them feedback, it's gonna end up in terrible stuff. And but most of the time you'll be pleasantly surprised. I formed a
Yeah.
lot of good relationships through this, mashallah. Have you done this before, Aziz, with other people?
Yeah, but not in one-on-one talking. But the feedback is quite negative. But yeah, I
Oh,
learn from it. It's good.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's yeah.
but the bigger boss like me after that because I was I was giving a good feedback to my manager and my subordinates and my manager. So because usually when we in my previous company we have this brainstorming session,
Okay.
but they always
Mm.
have this it turns out it doesn't become a brainstorming, but it's like giving feedback to people. You always come office late, everything.
Blame
Yeah, blame.
session, is
So
it?
yeah, so I try my best to do the brainstorming session. I don't talk anything about other people's positive or negative, but
Okay.
what we can do to have an impact for next year. That's my,
Mm.
and then I get fired by this manager, blah blah blah, and then but our boss like it, and I get a good rating after that. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
mashallah. Well
Mashallah.
done.
makes me love my job more.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah.
Authenticity.
Yeah, but you had to break through that fear barrier first, right?
Yes, very. Yeah, I practice that presentation. I think for hours, for days, for weeks. No.
Oh
So
wow.
I think one of the things
Oh,
like if you need to
mashallah.
go with a difficult conversation, yeah, always
yeah.
to me what keeps me in my mind is like I will have this how I build my mental strength. It's like I don't need any money from you. I am
Oh.
I mean this is how you don't actually determine my future. I'm capable to sort it by myself. Yeah, with the help of Allah, everything's sorted out. So and of course you want to do, and then you've got that back in your mind. Then you structure your conversation. Make sure that you do it with the correct ethics, correct
Yeah.
attitude, not to be angry or or shooting at everyone. Yeah, but have
Yeah.
that in mind. So you become a bit more fearless.
The intention must be right at the first place, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's why Omar mentioned something about when you want to speak to people. Yeah, say that the words that come out from someone is a reflection of his heart. So if his heart is
Ah,
full of
okay.
taqwa, then his message gets absorbed easier by the listener.
Ah, okay.
Right.
Yeah, and then to be honest, I find it very interesting that a lot of problems in the office can be solved by simply pick up the phone. We have a lot of these cold wars, right? So we always project, we always assume negative things about other departments, but you find that when you have conversations, you'll be surprised. So I think that's a good life lesson that I learned throughout the years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Also talking about quitting or staying. Now the thing is, it can be a sensitive topic, but I think one of the things that I do want to highlight is that we should demystify this stigma that quitting is a negative thing. I think that's one of the first things, because quitting can be a positive thing, because the word quit implies that you give up, right? That's
Yeah.
not necessarily the case.
A loser. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. We ourselves think that, oh, if I'm quit, I'm a loser, right? And by the way,
Right.
one of my friends who he refused to quit smoking used that excuse. I want to quit. Yeah, chief. Here's the thing, chief. I want to quit smoking, but I'm not a quitter. All right.
Wow,
Okay.
nice.
Allah Mustaan. Anyway, so the thing is, quitting by itself doesn't necessarily mean you're quitting or being a loser in that sense. It means that maybe you just discovered what you don't like, and maybe you want to move on. Maybe you want to, because maybe you're meeting a barrier, which maybe going across that barrier is something that you need to overcome. It's a journey that you've closed the book and it's done its service. So that's one way of looking at it. So I think that's one of the aspects that we have to think about when we talk about quit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That comes
also,
into play, like what Amir has also said, that have a plan. So basically, have a structured aim where you want to arrive at. And so, if you really end up in a situation that you have to call it quits, then yeah, just go for it. And it's not a negative thing. It's part of your growth as well. So it's not necessarily a negative thing.
If it makes them feel better. Like I got a statistic from a World Economic Forum. Like in the States, the average workforce changes job 12 times before he hits 48 years old. 12
Wow.
times.
Okay.
12 times 48 years old. Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Does changing department
I
count?
know.
Ah, nice try. You're good, but you're not that good. I think I remember even Reza mentioning this about your dad, isn't it?
Yeah. I
He
mean,
went through a career path for a while, isn't it? I think 10 years. I think.
exactly 10 years in a department that he didn't find satisfaction, or he didn't enjoy the job, because it doesn't tie in with the things that he likes to do as a person. It is not part of his personality to just sit in and just crunch numbers. He's more of a people person. So in the end, yeah, you realize these things, and you go through a period of self-discovery, in the sense that you know that you are not fit for this job. So you should go to another one that is a bit more fits your purpose. But the key message here is that do it with a sense of purpose, not just because I quit.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, as Amay highlighted, if you want to quit, you have to consider the consequences in your own situation. So if you do decide that not quitting is a better decision because you are in the financial need for it, then by all means make that decision, but own up to the decision, own up to the consequences of that decision. You have to make the best from that decision. And if you're going to quit, because true, I mean, there can be a situation where the negative things far outweigh the positive, and probably it's eroding your own, maybe even your own relationship with Allah, maybe it's with your family relationships. Fine, you have to make that decision, but you have to own up to the potential consequence, the financial consequences behind that. So that's the thing. We have to always empower ourselves that we do have some accountability over this. So that's one thing. Now, one of the things that I want to advise about this is what I kind of what Ame and I alluded to, is the middle ground is this. If you feel that you're unsatisfied, try to look for other things while you're in the job. Give it 100%, give it all out. You never know. So you find alternatives while you are in what you're doing right now. And that's an interesting thing because people like to think, this idea about if you want to pursue a business, you leave everything behind, right? Burn the boats, literally,
All or
as they say,
nothing.
right? All or nothing,
All or
right?
nothing.
Yeah, they like to
Go
bring
big or
this.
go home.
Yeah, go big or go home, right? And they bring this story from Sun Tzu's Art of War, and in fact, it's something
Oh.
that Tariq bin Ziyad did actually. So that's people didn't know this. So Tariq bin Ziyad, when he arrived at the land with the boats in what is known today as modern day Gibraltar. You know why it's called Gibraltar, by the way?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Because it's Tariq bin Ziyad, right? So Gibraltar comes from the word Jabal Tariq, mountain of Tariq.
Okay.
Oh,
All
okay.
right.
Gibraltar.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
ship
where it
right.
comes
Right.
from. Gibraltar, Jabal Tariq. So when
Oh.
they arrived at that land, the first thing he said, burn the boats, get rid of the boats. So now either we die for the sake of Allah or we win. So like, whoa, people like to quote these kind of stories. Like, if you want to go business, like, don't put one foot in, one foot out, right? Go for it, right? Pursue your passion. That's, and I'm sorry to say that reality, that's not the case. I can't remember what book it was, but the book was about many of the great businesses and entrepreneurial discoveries that we see today was not that they left everything behind. They were doing it while actually doing it their jobs. They were working their
Yeah.
jobs while actually
Yep.
working behind the scenes. And when they got just enough, they felt that safety, then they quit. So and it's not a bad thing. People think that you apa ni keep one what is this? You keep one foot in, one foot out, right? You gotta go. No, it's not a
You know
bad.
why, Brother Faisal? Why they say that? Because
Uh-huh.
it makes it nicer for the story to sell the
It
book.
does. That's the thing. You want to appear on the cover of Forbes.
It sounds boring. Actually, I saved enough money to not work for 3 years. Then I
Yeah.
decided to start my business. Yeah,
It
that's not
sounds
nice.
safe, right?
Yeah.
There's no elements of risk to it.
That's right.
Not enough, I guess.
Yes. Allah Mustan. Allah Mustan. So yeah, I think just to close on this point. So another how is as what Amir highlighted earlier on is to find your purpose. There's a book about this by Robin Sharma. It's called The Leader Without a Title, and it's an interesting book that emphasizes that you don't have to have the title to have the joy or the passion in what you love and what you do. The example that he gave was an example of a housekeeper. So she doesn't she just cleans the housekeeping in the hotel, and she does it with so much passion and so much excitement. And the guy was questioning, why are you so happy about this? They said, oh, I can make people stay comfortable. I play a very important role in this organization, man.
Right, right.
People don't see me, but when they check out, that smile on their faces, I like to believe that I played some part to contributing to how they felt. It's like, wow, this is amazing way of thinking.
Abundance mentality, right?
Abundance mentality, yeah,
Abundance,
yeah. And we meet so many people, even if today we're working from home a lot, even with that meetings that we have, I always think about, okay, what can I do to just leave a bit of positive impact from this meeting? I like the kind of thinking gets you improving the working culture. So I would like to think, Allah Alam, that I maybe have contributed to some positivity in the workplace, inshallah.
Right. It's just like the marathon runner's mindset, what they go through in a marathon run. It's more also about training your mental abilities, also in training your physical abilities. So in that sense, what they think of that situation matters. It's the key whether they're listen to their body and just give up,
Oh, okay.
or they push through. So focusing on the positives would make them successful in that case. So
Right,
the key thing is
visualizing that victory.
visualizing, exactly.
Okay.
So what you focus on at any point of time, be it in your job or in your general life, is very important, because if you focus on the right things, the positive things, and what you can control, it produces some much more of a positive and productive effect. So um, to think about it from hadith narrated by Abu Hurairah, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, look at those who are beneath you, and do not look at those who are above you, for it is more suitable that you should not consider as less the blessing of Allah. So in this point of the hadith is that what you focus on, and when you look at people who are below you, then you have that mindset of shukr, and you focus that, okay, you have a lot of things going well for you as well. So it's about positive thinking and focusing on the good things that can improve your quality of life as well.
Yeah, and the thing about that hadith that I find very interesting is that we think that they are above us, but they have other problems that we don't see.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good point.
Inshallah.
I think also another last tip that I would like to share is that if you work on your competency, nobody can take this from you. So if you, for example, you go all out in building the skills, looking for certifications, which is something that I encourage a lot of my coworkers to do, especially these days when the job security is not there. I tell them, well, if you're gonna lose your job, you're not gonna lose that certification. It's still gonna be with you, and the company can't take this away from you. The boss can't take this away from you. But I've seen this taken to a bit of the extreme. So some of my relatives, they work in the consulting firms. I think it's quite infamous in Malaysia. The way that everyone who works in these firms, they call it the Big Four, they're overworked to the point of like they have to work until midnight, then they have to come back again early next day, and everyone's like, I'm just gonna get that. I think it's CA, was it Chartered Accountant? I think.
Yes, I've heard of this as well.
Yeah, so everyone has that mindset.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna
yeah.
get this thing, and I'm gonna chow. I'm gonna get out of here.
Sounds
So-
very tough, huh? Like on the work life balance, like you basically have none.
Yeah.
At least at the start, that's what they say, right? At the start, you have to just go through that.
Yeah, and ironically, a lot of people who go through this in the medical industry as well. So
Yeah,
people who
true.
go through houseman,
True.
they get very little sleep because of the hours that they have to spend. Ironically, they're telling the patients to get a lot of sleep, but they themselves can't afford that privilege. So, but yeah, I mean, you just bear all these things in mind, and hopefully, when you try to pile these things up together, try to find the little things that give you joy, try to build up that competency. Hopefully, that will improve your morale in the future, inshallah. Okay.
Right.
So yeah, I'd like to wrap up this conversation. Inshallah, we'll go through one by one. So, brother Amir, inshallah, you want to share some closing remarks?
Okay, all right. So my closing remark will be: in this life, there's no guarantee that if you are able to live a life based on your passion, yeah, then you'll be stress free. There's no guarantee to that, yeah.
Yeah, Andre Agassi is an example of that. Huh?
Indeed. Example, well, I give like a teacher, because most teacher they do it out of passion, yeah. So even though they love seeing their students benefit from their knowledge, they love seeing their student grow up and be a beneficial citizens, they still put up their job that they hate. For instance, those long hours of marking papers. It's not nothing nice to do.
Yeah.
Or even like a soldier, they know that what they're doing is protecting the country, but yet they need to endure those physical, mental torture, hardship that before they actually get the ranks.
Okay.
Yeah? So even though, but what keeps them going? Yeah, it's the impact of work that they believe in. Yeah, the benefit that comes from their work. Yeah, because if it's just purely based on and that should be what's the bigger factor into your decision, into your career life. Yeah, and if it's just purely based on passion, then believe me, passion will change as you grow older, as you move on to other places. Yeah. And humans will never be satisfied with what they got. Yeah? For instance, in the hadith, they say that the son of Adam, if he's given a valley full of gold, then he will definitely ask for the second one. Yeah. And it's just human nature. Yeah. So understand the bigger goals in life. Yeah. So which is to be a good slave of Allah, a good servant of Allah, and that should be your primary goal in seeking sustenance and doing your job in meeting your fulfilling your daily amanah. That's all I have.
MashaAllah. Very good. Barakallah fiqh. Reza?
Right. Just to continue on what Amir said, is quite a important point. Is that when you look for something that you are passionate about, look for the impact. That's something that is key in your work, basically. And if you don't find it first, don't worry. Just go through what you have a plan, basically. Go through what you have to go through. Eventually, inshallah, that through those self-discovery, you will find something that means a lot to you. And when it means a lot to you in your work, that's when you will have a big impact in your work. And so basically, in a nutshell, it's not an automatic thing that you will find your passion or meaning in your work. It's something that you have to go through. So don't be afraid of going through what you have to go through, and basically also make dua and depend on Allah as well, as much as you also place the efforts. And basically, yeah, just passion is not automatic. It's a self-discovery thing, and it's important to arrive to it. But don't worry if you don't necessarily have that at the moment. As long as you have a plan and you are working towards it, and you are growing and you have that growth mindset, that's the most important thing, inshallah.
MashaAllah. Very good. Jazakallah khairan. Aziz?
So I think brother Amir and brother Rizal already take all of my points.
Did they?
Okay. No. Okay. I think
That's a cop-out answer. Anyway, sorry. Okay.
CEO answer. Yeah. No. And
CEO
this is
answer.
okay. We always have, as I mentioned earlier, by Kel Newport, that he gave these terms about the passion trap, right? So we won't always have this job. What we will it is not it is hard to find a job that is resonant with our passion, because yeah, the things we care about would change over time. Yeah, meaning our passion will change over time, and some of the hobbies and personal passion don't always translate to fulfilling careers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think we should stop asking ourselves about um, how can I get satisfaction in my work only. So we should start asking ourselves, how can I give impact, and what legacy I want to leave behind. So I think
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
if we think about it, so we have a bigger purpose than ourselves, because we are quite, if we only think about ourselves, we are just big as ourselves, right?
Okay.
Yeah, if we have a bigger
MashaAllah.
purpose, mashallah, maybe we would start to love our job, inshallah.
Oh, MashaAllah. Very good. Very good. Okay, so yeah, just a few from me. Just to remind the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said that you don't have true iman until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. So we know the aspects of our workplace or even our job that we don't necessarily enjoy. So the question that we should ask ourselves is, how can I make that within my control to make something that's enjoyable for other people? So when you are in that position one day, if you're complaining about the boss, so we talked about what not to do as a boss. So now what can you do within your control to change that? So there, in reality, we do have a lot of things within our control. So that we should shift the emphasis of that and for emphasis on focusing on those things. And lastly, I just want to close on the point about ibadah, which is really brilliantly mentioned by Aziz just now, mashallah, which is when you link what you do with a higher purpose, it's very motivating. And that should remind you that this is something this is a means for me to get to that end. But it's also, there's another aspect about this. And of course, this is another big topic. Work is ibadah. But the thing is, if you consider your work to be ibadah, this means that you have to fulfill the ibadah part as well. That there are other aspects about your life as a Muslim, and I find that this is something that should remind us that you shouldn't skimp on your responsibilities as a Muslim. And the more you do that, the more you'll be looking forward to the reward. And the more you look forward to that reward, the more you define yourself by that identity, the more you realize that this work itself is a means to strengthen that identity. So it's actually a utility. So this job doesn't define you. This job is something that fulfills your bigger purpose. So I like to really compartmentalize that, and especially what Ami mentioned just now about having these difficult conversations. I don't need you. Like, try to have that kind of mindset. Okay, this job is a means. Not say I don't want to get to the words I say. I don't need this job. That kind of sounds a bit tough, but just think about it as something that serves you. That the job serves you, not you serve the job. So that's something from me, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Okay, Jazakumullah khairan for listening. Inshallah, there was a very good conversation. So we will end here, inshallah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Barakallahu fikum.
wabarakatuh.
So that is all for this week's episode. Thank you and jazakumullahu khaira for tuning in. If you have benefited from this episode, don't forget to click the like and subscribe button down below. Support us by sharing this video with the others, as that will enable the message to spread even further across the world, inshallah. And if you have any feedback, suggestions, and comments, do get in touch with us via our Facebook and Instagram pages. Thank you once again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We'll see you guys next week.